Hello everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Plead Your Case here on WCTV Channel 14. I'm Austin Bechtold, and I'll be joined alongside Nolan Porterfield and Bruce Davidson to break down the core four sports all in action here in October: the MLB, the NBA, the NFL, and the NHL. So sit back and relax, because it's time now to plead your case.
We're going to fade up to camera 3 in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, take it.
Welcome back to Plead Your Case. We've reached week number 7 of the NFL season. So, who have been the biggest surprises so far this season? Bruce, who in your mind has been not living up to the hype?
One team that I don't think has lived up to the hype, and this is a team that I thought could contend for a playoff spot this year, is the Miami Dolphins. I mean, just a year ago, they were 10-6, fighting for a wild card spot. Now, it looks like they're back to the stage where they were tanking for Tua. You have Tua. You don't need to tank again. I don't understand how this team has fallen so far from what they were at the end of last year, and you cannot look at a game where you get outcoached late in London by Urban Meyer and be smiling the next day. So the Dolphins have some real issues. There is some news that might have come out today that maybe they're trying to go a different route at quarterback, but at 1-5, I think they're in a deep hole. I don't know how they can recover from it, even though they're still, with the added game, 12 weeks left.
Yeah, John McClain of the Houston Chronicle reporting that a deal for Deshaun Watson to the 1-5 Miami Dolphins could happen this week. Nolan, do you think that could change anything for Miami now with Tua Tagovailoa not really getting it done?
I mean, it definitely could. Obviously, when you're looking to move a quarterback out, obviously it's going to be a huge change for your offense and everything going on around it as well. I mean, let's face it, Tua turn the ball over, as Twitter's been calling him lately, has just not been living up to the hype, and it shows you just how badly they want to get him out there. If they're willing to bring in Deshaun Watson with all the baggage that he's had over the offseason, to just want to bring him in now and basically just start from scratch. It's not a good look right now in Dolphin land for sure.
The Detroit Lions, the only winless team at 0-6. The only undefeated team is the Arizona Cardinals, exceeding all preseason expectations. Bruce, the Cardinals and especially Kyler Murray have blown me away so far, to the point where, for me, he's an early MVP candidate by far.
Yeah, Kyler's definitely in the MVP race. Arizona also is a team that has been a big surprise to me. I figured this team would be, at the very least, a wild card. I knew after last year they were coming up just short. I felt this year they could make a playoff push, but I didn't see them being the last unbeaten team. I didn't see them at 6-0. And unlike some other teams in their division, maybe the Seahawks, who can become too Russell Wilson dependent, while Kyler's an MVP candidate, he's not the only guy that produces for them. They have DeAndre Hopkins, and they have a solid, and I would even argue somewhat underrated defense.
And building off that, like you said, with Murray being a potential MVP candidate, obviously that's a very strong statement, I'd say, and I'd agree with it as well. 1,500 passing yards through the first few games of the season, 13 touchdowns total, 75% completion. He's done everything that he's needed to do, and then some for this Arizona Cardinals team, and that's why they're in the position that they're in. They're atop their division, and right now they don't show any signs of slowing down.
They're in the top 5 in both points offensively and also defensively points allowed. Arizona has definitely been getting it done. Now, some of the rookie quarterbacks we've seen this season have not gotten it done so far. None of them have a winning record this season. But Nolan, is there any that has stood out of the most of the 5 quarterbacks that were drafted in the first round in 2021?
Well, no one's really stood out in terms of just great performances. I mean, obviously referring to our most recent first overall pick, Trevor Lawrence, just got his first professional win last Sunday across the pond, I should say. And not a great game as well, throwing for 319 yards and a touchdown, taking down those Miami Dolphins. You know, he was a victim in the first half by a lot of drops by his receivers, but he seems like he's made some better decisions with the ball, and he's continuing to improve his game as well. So I'm really hoping that he continues to evolve as well. And another guy that's done well is Justin Fields, I'd say, in Chicago. Obviously, it's been a mix of who's going to be starting at quarterback, whether it's him or whoever's chosen that week. But he's done a great job whenever he has had to step in. So I'm looking forward to seeing him throughout the rest of the year as well.
Andy Dalton has also seen some time, but now Justin Fields, the announced starter by Matt Nagy for the remainder of the season. Bruce, has Fields been the guy you're looking at, or is there anybody else in particular that caught your eye?
Fields has impressed me. I think it'll be a good decision that they finally commit to him at the starting quarterback. Nobody likes playing knowing that 1 minute they could be out there, the next they could be on the bench. But to me, the guy that I've had my eye on is Mac Jones. I said it on draft night. Some people were saying that if the Niners took him, he'd be a bust. In my eyes, I felt like that was a high chance anywhere but New England. I feel like Coach Saban and Coach Belichick are cut from the same cloth. Yes, he has a losing record at 2-4, but the moments haven't seemed to overwhelm him. He got them in a position to take the lead against the Patriots on probably the most hyped regular season game in the last 10 years. And then right after throwing a pick six to the Cowboys, got back on the field, threw a touchdown pass. So I think Mac Jones is going to succeed. I don't know that he'll have a winning record at the season's end, but given enough time, the Patriots will be a headache for the rest of the AFC in the near future.
As they've been for the past 20 years while Tom Brady was at the helm. I agree. Mac Jones, at least in my eyes, has looked better than I could have expected from a guy who was the fifth quarterback taken in the draft. 2-4, but in retrospect, could be 3-3, even 4-2 with the game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and also the Dallas Cowboys coming down to the wire. And Mac Jones looked poised, looked composed, really stays strong in the pocket. And I think maybe he could become the quarterback that has the most success if Bill Belichick is around. He is getting up there in age for the next couple of seasons. Doesn't look very promising for Zach Wilson in New York, similar to a lot of the other quarterbacks that the Jets have had in recent years, where we've seen Sam Darnold leave New York and have some success in Carolina, now starting to falter a little bit for that Panthers offense without Christian McCaffrey. But who do you think is the quarterback that will have the best success throughout their entire career out of the five?
Out of the five, I think it's going to be between probably Mac Jones and, depending on where the Jaguars end up, I could see Trevor Lawrence being very successful. He's obviously not the reason they're 1-5. You get drafted by Jacksonville, brand new head coach, a lot of expectation. So I don't think he's let the pressure phase him too much. Given time, I think he'll be someone that the AFC has to look out for.
I'm going to agree with that as well with Trevor Lawrence, because the team that Trevor Lawrence could potentially win a Super Bowl with in Jacksonville is not on the field right now. I would even argue that the coach that he's going to win it with is not on the sidelines right now. I feel like there's going to be a lot of changes that need to be made in Jacksonville in order for Trevor Lawrence to really get a good team and really, establish himself as a true high-caliber NFL quarterback. It's not going to happen right now, and it may not happen for maybe another year or two, but I see that potential in him. He seems like a great quarterback. He's obviously given us no reason to doubt him yet, and I really think he's going to be the guy moving forward.
I'm surprised neither of you guys mentioned Trey Lance. In a Kyle Shanahan offense that has explosive weapons in Deebo Samuel, you can throw George Kittle out there whenever he's healthy. A pretty run-happy offense, if you will. It also has a pretty strong defense as well. That's a tough division with now the emergence of Arizona. The Rams have been good for years, and we've seen Seattle with Russell Wilson when he's able to play, which he's been on the field for every single game since his rookie year up until this point where Geno Smith had to take over against the Steelers. I think that we could see some progress and some success out of Trey Lance because of the offensive system that he's in. Now, you also are a product of who you play against in the division that you're in, and that's at this point, maybe the strongest division in football right now in the NFC West. So I feel like we could see Trey Lance as another possibility, but that's why they play the games. Now playing the games is the NHL, and we'll hit the ice when we return here on Plead Your Case. Welcome back to Plead Your Case. The NHL season began just over a week ago with the Pittsburgh Penguins taking down the defending Stanley Cup champion, back-to-back champion Tampa Bay Lightning 6-2. So now with the season starting to get ramped up a little bit, Nolan, what team are you looking at and what player as well as one of the keys to this NHL season as one of the main faces?
Well, as far as teams are concerned, the two you have to talk about, obviously, are the Colorado Avalanche out west and, of course, the Tampa Bay Lightning here in the east. They're already the back-to-back defending champions. I don't see any reason why they can't repeat as Stanley Cup champions again if they really wanted to. And it may just come down to, guys getting tired or whatever, but this team is so loaded. You have the captain, Steven Stamkos. You have Braden Point. You have the Norris Trophy winner and Victor Hedman. You have the greatest goalie in the world in Andrei Vasilevsky. And not to mention you got Nikita Kucherov, who's also injured, but he could end up coming back here in the next 10 weeks or so. So the team's going to be just fine moving forward. One thing I will say is I really enjoyed the Colorado Avalanche as well moving out west. A player that you obviously have to watch is, of course, the other Cole Harbor product is Nathan McKinnon. Of course, they have Mikko Rantanen as well, and that defensive core is absolutely loaded as well. So I think those are going to be the top 2 teams in the NHL this year.
I don't have much differing takes as far as those teams being competitive. Obviously, Tampa looking for 3 in a row hasn't been done since the Islanders of the 80s. For Tampa Bay, though, they lost a key line that was kind of their energy group in the playoffs, centered by Yanni Gourde, either to the Kraken with the expansion draft or to just free agency in general. So how they rebound with not having that group together is something to look for. On Colorado's side, I think they need to take a page out of Tampa's book and realize the regular season isn't as crucial as some might make it out to be. They're kind of getting a little bit of a reputation as the team that always gets beat in the second round. And out west, that will turn them into the equivalent of the Capitals if it continues. So Colorado should be a strong team. Tampa going for 3 in a row. I'm also keeping my eye on Vegas. I don't know what penalty, what obscure rule is going to cause them to lose this year, but if they complain about it enough, they might get a rep as the Saints of the NHL.
Well, Bruce, now there's a 32nd team in the NHL. Now, the Seattle Kraken, the latest addition to the National Hockey League, also out west, as well as the Vegas Golden Knights, the last expansion team that the NHL had only a few years ago. Do you think that Seattle could have similar success that Vegas did, or do you think Vegas was just an aberration with how the expansion draft went?
I'm not going to say they're a complete aberration. I'm not picking Seattle to go to the Cup final. I think they could contend for a playoff spot because beyond the Knights and the Edmonton Oilers, the Pacific isn't that strong of a division. So 3rd to 5th is where I see them slotting in. But teams got wise this expansion draft. They didn't let Seattle do to them what Vegas did where, we'll take your 2nd best player or we'll take your 3rd for 2 and 3 draft picks. And George McPhee fooled the league once. Seattle wasn't going to fool him twice. So they'll be good, they'll be competitive with defense and goaltending, but they're not going to the Cup.
And I agree with Bruce on this one. I feel like this is a fringe playoff team in Seattle. They don't really have the it guys, I'd say, like Vegas did, who are going to rise up and do what they need to do in order to make a deep playoff run. I'd say, like Bruce said, 3rd or 5th is probably the best place they have a chance of finishing up at. They do have a strong goaltending tandem there, and I will give them credit. Philip Grubauer has been a nice addition there, and they're going to rely on him heavily moving forward. And the team does have some defensive depth as well. But at the end of the day, I feel like it's just not going to be enough for them to really do some damage when April and May roll around.
They do have a really cool nickname, though, and some really cool jerseys, so something to watch out for whenever you see the Kraken for the first time on the ice this season. Now, let's go to the backyard. The Pittsburgh Penguins are 2-0-1, 5 points so far this season, losing in a shootout to the Dallas Stars at home on Mike Lang night on Tuesday night at PPG Paints Arena. How do you guys see the Penguins season going this year? Last year was really a year that could have went either way, ended up faltering late down the stretch and into the playoffs. But the Penguins, without Sidney Crosby right now, should be back in the next couple of games, and without Evgeny Malkin as well. So Nolan, we'll start with you. What's the outlook so far for the 2021-2022 Penguins?
I think it's kind of the same boat as Seattle in a sense that they're going to be a fringe playoff team maybe, because right now you're missing those big guys. You're missing Sidney Crosby. Granted, he will be back soon, knock on wood, obviously. And Evgeny Malkin's going to be out for the first 2 months of the season, so you're going to be missing your top 2 guys right there. You're going to be relying heavily on Jeff Carter. Can a 36-year-old center, carry the weight that he did last year? When he came in, when he was acquired from LA last year, he was money for the Penguins. He's sort of been that way in the first 5 games of the season so far, but up until this point, they're going to need more of that from him basically if they want to be able to contend, because right now it's going to be it's an uphill battle. It really is. And another thing they're going to have to watch out for too is Tristan Jarry. We saw the struggles he had in the playoffs last year. He's looked promising so far in the early stages of the season. He's going to need to keep that up as well, because if the Penguins are going to have to do anything in the playoffs, it's going to rely heavily on the goaltending, and Tristan Jarry is going to have to be the guy to do it.
Yeah, for me with the Penguins, what's impressed me early on to start the season is with the usual suspects, the Crosby and the Malkin on the bench, guys like Dominic Simone and Brian Boyle stepping up and getting goals. As for their outlook, I look down the road and I just have one concern. They can't make making the playoffs the ultimate goal, because they need to make sure when they get there they go somewhere. Otherwise, they're trending the same dangerous slope that the Red Wings did not too long ago when their 25-year playoff streak came to an end.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Bruce. Right now, either you're a Stanley Cup contender or you've got to be at the bottom. If you're in the middle ground, you're not going to be able to have that much success, and you need to be able to pick a direction, have an identity, and know where you're going to go in the season. Now, coming up, we'll hit the hardwood with the NBA back in action Tuesday night. The NBA tipped off, and we'll tell you how it went and what we think the 2020-2021 NBA season could look like in its 75th year. Welcome back to Plead Your Case. The NBA tipped off its milestone 75th season on Tuesday night with the defending champion Milwaukee Bucks taking down the Brooklyn Nets in the East, and out west, the Golden State Warriors defeating the Los Angeles Lakers at the Staples Center to officially begin the NBA season. Now guys, what is your outlook for the NBA this season? A big year for the National Basketball Association, celebrating some of the greatest players in the league historically, and also previewing what could be to come with a lot of young stars.
I think this year for the NBA, what I'm most looking forward to in this celebratory season is just back to as close to normal as we can get. Fans back in the stands, regular playoffs, no added 10-team, 12-team, whatever they're doing. I like that we're getting back to basics, and we can look through our nights on Wednesdays and Thursdays in the fall and have a game to watch.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to another great season of NBA basketball. The one thing I'm really going to be interested in is the division as the competition, at least, moving out of the East. I think that's going to be the big thing that a lot of people pay attention to. Obviously, the Bucks are going to be looking to defend their title as they should. The real question mark is going to be the Brooklyn Nets to me, because obviously we saw how good that team can be. I mean, let's face facts. If Kevin Durant's shoe was like a size smaller, they end up going on to the Eastern Conference Finals. However, that's neither here nor there. My point is that they don't have Kyrie Irving, who they didn't have last year in the playoffs, and he ultimately was a contributing factor to why they didn't make it. So doesn't seem like they're not going to have him right now either. So you're going to be relying on Kevin Durant. You're going to be relying on James Harden and all the other guys there in Brooklyn as well. I don't know if it's going to be enough to overtake Giannis and company up in Milwaukee. That remains to be seen. Another team that I'm really looking forward to watching is the Miami Heat. Obviously, the addition of Kyle Lowry was pretty important. I'm hoping that that's going to, push them a little bit forward, because last year they were kind of like it almost seemed like they fell off in a sense, going to the finals in 2020, and then they don't even end up making it the next year, and they barely made the playoffs the following season. I'm hoping that they have a sort of a bounce back here. And another team that I think a lot of people are sleeping on also is Chicago. A lot of huge additions in Chicago as well. I'm hoping that they end up putting a nice little season together. And lastly, moving out of the East would be Philadelphia, and obviously I want to see how the Ben Simmons situation plays out, because obviously that's been a very big development over the last 24 hours. So hopefully we see something more come from that.
In what used to be the least of the two conferences when LeBron was playing in Cleveland, the East is, can we say, loaded now? Also with the Knicks, looks like they might be on the rise. You got the emergence of Trae Young in Atlanta. Charlotte might be able to put something together to be able to sneak into the playoffs with LaMelo Ball and the cast of players that they're putting together there. Bruce, who do you think out of the West, though, could be looking to overtake the top teams like the Utah Jazz and the Phoenix Suns? Or do you think that those two teams are going to be remaining at the top of the West standings? Or maybe we see the Clippers or the Lakers go to the top of the standings as well?
Well, as you couldn't tell from the beginning of this segment, basketball is one of my least known subjects. I know a little more about it than Stephen A. with hockey. I try. But out West, I feel like the Suns and Jazz are going to be strong again, and I think the Lakers are going to make a return at least to the second round and possibly beyond. I was thinking the other day that the one year Alabama and Tom Brady didn't win championships, the world kind of went crazy. but then Alabama wins another national championship, Brady wins another Super Bowl, so if we're going to fully return back to the world as we knew it, I think LeBron getting to the finals and losing them is going to become something we should continue to expect.
The Denver Nuggets also dominated the West last year, and we'll get Jamal Murray back from injury. Nolan, do you think that that's going to be playing a big part in the overall West standings going into the playoffs?
I would agree with that. I'd say that the Nuggets are definitely a team that a lot of people, kind of sleep on in a sense, but I like their chances heading into this season. I also like the Jazz as well, and I think this could potentially be the year where they jump the shark in a sense. As far as other teams to look out for, obviously the Suns had a great season last year. I don't know if they're going to be able to duplicate that success. That remains to be seen. Hopefully they do, because I'd love to see Chris Paul get a ring. He's definitely a guy who's been in the league for a long time and has led a lot of great teams, so it'd be great to see him get one. And I'm surprised by myself saying this, but I also wouldn't mind seeing the Warriors go back again, just because I feel like it's not sort of in the same sense as what it was in years past, where okay, they got the loaded super team and whatnot. I don't think they're that necessarily anymore, but they still have a couple players. Obviously, Steph's still there, and I don't know if what the status is with Klay Thompson right now. Maybe we see him this year, maybe not.
Should be back soon.
Remains to be determined, obviously. As far as the Lakers is concerned, just going off what I saw last night, what I've seen in the preseason, I haven't been that impressed with and everything. That seems like they got the best team from 2010. 10 years too late. Obviously, you brought in LeBron James, and obviously you have LeBron and Anthony Davis. They brought in Russell Westbrook. They brought Dwight Howard back for some reason, and then they brought in Rondo again as well. So I don't know how that group's going to mesh. Westbrook didn't look great last night, only put up 8 points. So, I mean, you see what happens when guys don't perform on LeBron teams. Usually they're out of here sooner rather than later. So. Yeah. Not saying that he has the potential to get traded, but I mean, if the train doesn't get on the track here soon, that wouldn't be surprising.
We'll go quickly around the horn. Bruce, who's your MVP favorite?
I'm going to go Luka Doncic, just because I only know him and Mark Cuban, and that's how I know the Mavericks. They're the two reasons I watch, and I think he's one of the best players in the league.
Nolan?
I'm going to go with the Greek freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo. I've seen what he can do now. He can shoot the ball. I mean, not that he couldn't do it before, but now he's got some range to it. I really like what he's been, the adjustments he's made to his game. He was already a dominant force, and now someone who can pull the shot from long range. I'm really liking Giannis heading into this season.
I was a big advocate for Chris Paul to be able to win it last season. Didn't happen. Jokic ended up taking it for Denver. It still had a phenomenal season. I think, agreeing with Bruce, Luka Doncic is going to have a fantastic season. He's just a spectacular player, has all the great dynamics, is a great rebounder, passer, scorer, can do it all. And one thing that's kind of been a recent trend in the past couple of years is players that win the MVP have not necessarily been the players that are on the best teams that are able to win the NBA championship. I think that trend continues with Dallas as a mid team in the West, and Luka taking the crown as NBA MVP. But coming up, another crown is going to be taken. That's in the MLB, as the World Series champion will be crowned in the next couple of weeks. We'll preview who could win it all in the MLB here on Plead Your Case.
Piracy is a crime. If you see someone downloading copyrighted material without paying for it, then you should inform the authorities immediately. If you download any copyrighted material from the internet without paying for it, then you should go to jail.
Welcome back to Plead Your Case. We're swinging for the fences on our final topic of the afternoon. Major League Baseball currently in the championship series of the playoffs, with the Houston Astros and the Boston Red Sox now at 2 games apiece, and the Atlanta Braves leading the Los Angeles Dodgers 2-1 in the best of 7 series to figure out who will go to the World Series here in 2021. Nolan, what has surprised you, if anything, so far in these playoffs?
I got to admit, I was pleasantly surprised by the performance by the Boston Red Sox. I really wasn't sure how they were going to do in this postseason, and I wasn't sure if they were going to have what it takes to go deep in the run, but the pitching staff has held up their end of the bargain, and the hitting has been absolutely outstanding for them. I really like the way they've played so far, and I honestly hope they can make it to the World Series, because obviously nobody wants to see the Astros make it for, just for cheating purposes from a couple of years ago. We won't get into that, but I really like the Red Sox right now, and I hope that they're the ones to make it out of the AL.
Yeah, for me, I think the surprise has been the Atlanta Braves getting out to a 2-0 lead on the Dodgers in the NLCS. Sure, they have home field advantage, but this is a Dodger team that has been to a World Series several of the past few seasons. They've been in this NLCS before, And as we'll see here in the coming days, this series is anything but over, but I really thought the Dodgers would be the one in the driver's seat so far.
Atlanta could have won in Game 3 as well, with Cody Bellinger hitting a 2-run home run to make it a 4-run 8th inning for the Dodgers to be able to win against Atlanta, to be able to take game number 3, which ended up being critical, as if the Braves went up 3-0, that might have been it. But who do you think, Bruce, is going to be able to make it to the World Series out of the National League and the American League?
Given just what you said, I think the Braves are going to be able to get the job done. I can say probably in 6 games, I think is how long this series go. Surprising to some, I don't think the Dodgers will be able to force a decisive Game 7. I think Atlanta's overdue for a return to the World Series. Whether they can win it or not is still to be seen, but I like their hitting, I like their pitching staff, and I just think it's their time to make a statement.
Yeah, I'm rocking with the Braves as well. I really think that they're going to be the team to make it out of the senior circuit. I really like how they've been playing so far. Love watching Freddie Freeman play every chance I get. He's a great first baseman, some guy that I model my game after here at Waynesburg, obviously. And I hope that he continues to have a great postseason because he's been money for the Braves so far. And another thing, too, I like them over the Dodgers. I'm tired of seeing the Dodgers in the postseason every year, just to be honest with you. And I'd like to see a Braves-Boston World Series in 2021.
Even without Ronald Acuna Jr., the Braves have found a way to get it done. Their offense has been fantastic, and the pitching really has been able to carry the Braves, as we've seen in past years and past playoffs of the Braves for so many years. And I think Boston is going to find a way against Houston. I really do. I think they're going to come out and take game number 5, make it a 3-2 series, go back to Houston, only needing 1 game. The Red Sox have been absolutely on fire, especially Kike Hernandez, Alex Verdugo, Xander Bogaerts, going down that whole entire lineup. Houston's lineup is also fantastic as well. I think Boston just has the best pieces, Nolan, to be able to put together a run to make it to the World Series.
Yeah, you got to mention Kyle Schwarber in there as well. He's definitely been a great power hitter to have. But I will give credit where credit is due for the Astros. They have some smart hitters up at the plate. They know what they're doing. And I think they've had some great at-bats, obviously, throughout the postseason. We saw how dominant they were in the first round, and hope that they can continue that against Boston. So this is going to be a series that I feel like could go 7, and I wouldn't mind seeing that, obviously. But I still think the Red Sox have the edge at the end.
Yeah, Red Sox-Astros has kind of become sort of one of the better postseason rivalries of the last 5 to 10 years. I'm going to agree with Nolan. I think the Red Sox get it done. I think this series does have the potential to go 7. And like Nolan, I'm going to give some credit to the Astros. Sure, the cheating scandal is going to hang over their heads, but if we're being honest, you don't make it to 5 straight ALCS by just banging on a couple trash cans. They're highly talented. There's a reason they continue to win 90 to 100 games. But I think for Boston fans, they're going to go back to the World Series because they've gone over 3 months without a parade. How are they holding up?
Oh, it's just got to be absolutely terrible for Boston. But would you be upset, or maybe just a little bit agitated, if there is a Dodgers-Astros World Series once again?
Absolutely.
I'm not as quick of a yes, but still a yes. I've seen the Dodgers there too many times, and I'd rather prefer anything but that.
There's not enough parity in baseball.
None whatsoever.
Not at all.
And that's the problem with Major League Baseball, is that you don't have. It's why it's lagging behind some of these other sports. It's why sports like hockey and basketball, or I won't say hockey maybe, but it has the potential to get above Major League Baseball because there isn't a lot of parity in Major League Baseball. You have easily the same 5 or 6 teams that have the best chance of winning, it seems like, every year. There really isn't a debate as to who's going to be the guy that pull it off. So I feel like, I wouldn't mind seeing something a little bit different. I haven't seen the Braves there in a while. I'd love to see that again.
Considering I had a White Sox-Brewers World Series at the beginning of the playoffs with the White Sox winning, I was pretty much rooting for that parity. But right now, as it currently stands, we all have Boston facing off against the Atlanta Braves. So, Nolan, who's your winner out of those 2 teams, and who comes up clutch as the World Series MVP?
I'm going to go Braves in 7, and I'm going to give it to my boy Freddie Freeman. I feel like his bat's going to be the X factor for Atlanta. They have him in that 2 or 3 spot. He's going to be the guy to get the big hit whenever they need him to, whether it's at the beginning of the game to get the inning going, or maybe it's later on in the inning whenever they need that clutch hit to come up. I really like Freddie Freeman. I think he's going to be the guy for them.
I'm going to have to go on the other side of this. I had a feeling you were going to go with Atlanta. I like Boston in this just because of their postseason experience. They were in the World Series not too long ago. And if I had to say length, I think the Red Sox win it in 7, much to the heartbreak of Atlanta once again. For MVP, I would go Kike Hernandez. He currently leads the team as we speak in batting average this postseason, and he's the guy that I would count on to get a clutch hit in the bottom of the 9th.
Kike Hernandez hitting .463 in the playoffs with 5 home runs and an absolutely absurd 1.4 OPS. He's absolutely crushing the ball over 1,000, way over 1,000. Now, your guys' series seem pretty exciting with 7 games. I think Boston's going to win it in 6. Maybe not as dramatic as the Game 7 in the World Series always is. I think Kike Hernandez also has to be the World Series MVP if we get to that point, and just how he's been crushing the ball. Unsung hero to Jose Iglesias, who isn't eligible for the playoffs for Boston, but has also been leader off the field for that team after being acquired not too long ago in September. And I think that Alex Cora is just such an X factor for this team. And anytime he's there, they win. They don't lose playoff series with Alex Cora. It's absolutely crazy, I think, how Boston was able to go from a bottom dweller team last year to now potentially in position to make it to the World Series and win the World Series. But that's just baseball, I guess, for a large market team.
Yep, they've done it several times before. They've gone worst to first back in around 2013. This isn't something out of their history.
The core four sports are all in action here in October. It's going to be very exciting to watch as the NBA and NHL begin. The NFL begins to ramp up their season now in week number 7. And the MLB is about to crown the 2021 World Series winner. For Bruce Davidson and Nolan Porterfield, I'm Austin Bechtold. Thank you for watching Plead Your Case. Have a great day.